Hi, today I'm going to discuss what if the Abrahamic religions are really the major movers and shakers in terms of the woke in terms of the LGBTQ and the denigration of women. And I'm not suggesting that the other religions aren't feeding into it, but the Abrahamic religions are a group of religions that started coming down approximately 2,000 years before Christ and then afterwards. I think I'm going to show you over the course of the next couple of sessions of how they played into it and how they gender bend the female goddesses, usurping it, making them male, how even Solomon is from Shelah, which is Hurrian for daughter, and there's so much behind what's going on here. But before I move into that, and by the way, I'm Lynn Schnebley, and I'm the ambassador for Heaven's creating and protecting goddesses and archangels over life. Before I move into that area, I'd like to take on the issue of the Kinsey Report. Now, there has been, and the reason why I do that is because the Kinsey Report was the backbone to the sexual revolution. Even though there's been a criticism of his participants, the people that he interviewed, and there has been over the years a discussion that these people were institutionalized, they were this, they were that. There hasn't been the fundamental criticism of what the Kinsey Report was and the only conclusions that could be drawn from it. Now, prior to the Kinsey Report, I'm not trying to suggest that our feelings or our expectations regarding human sexuality was correct, but I'm going to take a rather non-Jewish but a Jesus biblical approach, which is not Rome and it's not the Catholic Church. A man will leave his mother and father and will cleave to his wife. That is found in Genesis 1. It is also found in Genesis 3. It is found in Abraham going into just Sarah's cave. It's all seen as just one wife, one man, and everyone outside of that is sexual sin. It also states, and this is a very interesting thing, because today they will tell you with the Brotherhood of Man, you can't have slavery. Well, to quote Thomas Sowell and others, there's always been slavery. Female genital mutilation is slavery. There's been slavery going on all over the place, and the Bible never says that you can't have slavery. It assumes that there is going to be some slavery, either because of crime or because of war or because of poverty, that there are things that you owe and have to make up. The difference in the Old Testament and in terms of common law is that it was supposed to be a limited amount of slavery. And in terms of Jesus, you couldn't have sex with your slaves. All right. So if we take a look at what is actual biblical, slavery is permitted in a very limited scope. As well, if we take a look at what sexuality isn't permitted, sodomy is not permitted, homosexuality, yes, same-sex relationships are not permitted, fornication, sex outside of marriage is not permitted, as well as adultery is not permitted, and bestiality, third-party sex, which is why the Noahide has to be looked at again because of our use of third-party sex in terms of artificial insemination and all kinds of wacky things going on today. Now, having said all of that, you are saying there can't be slavery, but there can be all these other kinds of sins going on, all these kinds of sexual sins going on. And this is basically because you have taken what I say is when the behavior will creep down to the lowest common denominator. So because Islam allows this, you have to allow that. It's all very Masonic. It's all very Rome. It's very Thracian. It's very Greek. Because this group allows this, you have to allow it. Because that group allows this, you have to allow it. It doesn't matter that if sodomy brings about disease, or that fornication, you have all kinds of unwed mothers and then you don't have fathers in there. It doesn't matter what that is. You have to let it in. And it was basically a movement that has been perpetuated, moved, and created by, and all these things, and it's always men that are pushing it. Now, they blame women because they're really sly about this. They like blaming women who know right from wrong. But let's get back to the Kinsey Report. I'm not claiming that I'm a sexologist. I am not claiming that I'm the world's best statistician. I'm not claiming that I'm the best epidemiologist. I'm just, whatever God has given me, whatever gifts, intellectual gifts are many. So let's get on to the study. I have had 3 classes in statistics. I have had medical sociology, the political economy of healthcare systems, as well as research methods, and then, of course, all the other biblical studies. Looking at the Kinsey Report, as I look at it, imagine for once that you're doing a prevalence study of slavery around the world and the different types of slavery that's going on. Or that you're looking at smoking or drug addiction and the different types of smoking that's going on. And that's the only thing the study is. It's looking at the population and what they have. And then you break it up, looking at that population and saying, this is normal, this is abnormal, this is what, whatever it is. That is the only thing the Kinsey Report did. It did not link causality or consequence. The report should have been taken as just a baseline as to what's going on, and then the questions should have been, why? Why? But the problem with the Abrahamic tradition is that you have to allow this completely radical gambit of human sexuality. And given that we had the whole Solomon, Messianic, sex cults, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, they are alive and well going on, as well as transgenderism going on. Oh yes, when they took on Hippa and when they took on Sila, who was feminine, and when the Jews call breast Rachim, he, and when the Romans call breasts he, and when they call uterus he, and when the Jews call uterus Rachim he, we are looking at severe blasphemy against the Holy Spirit and transgenderism. There's nothing you can save. After you do that, and after you call Hava he, you can't save yourselves. You're done. But getting back to the Kinsey Report, so it doesn't stem from the kids that are running around, even the young men. It stems from the clergy and the scribes. And the medical profession, who know that women have more DNA than men and all these other things, but they won't discuss it. So again, coming back to the Kinsey Report, the only thing it discussed was prevalence of behavior, not causalities. There's no discussion of men going off to war, World War I, World War II, because of when the Kinsey Report was written, as well as the depression that hit and the inability of men to form lasting relationships with women, or the trauma of war, or being sent away with other men and what happens. I mean, when you begin to look at all of these other things, you begin to look at the pattern of population that he was interviewing for the most part, without looking at some of the causalities as well as wrong paradigms. And it was simply given a kind of stamp of approval, and then Playboy, who actually was the one who pushed abortion, as well as the rainbow push. It's really something that's being pushed by men, especially white men with an agenda. And the clergy backed it. It's beautiful. Including much of the Catholic clergy. They just do it silently because they're very good at being hypocrites. So let's talk about, as I mentioned, there is a reason why some of these would happen, as well as poor paradigms. I mean, if you tell men and women that women are physically weaker than men in many regards, but that they have more DNA, and that the egg and the X chromosome are the master creator, not the Y chromosome, okay? There's all kinds of things going on here. And when you begin calling your breast a she, and you reclaim your uterus, and just call it a utera, or it in English, when you begin to remove that power structure that men took, as well as the female divine, call Yahweh she, all right? Sila is she. bring back the Hurrian and the Hattian and the Hittite and realize that it was not the nomads, and it was not the pastoralists who were made in the image of God. It was the farmers, and it was the monogamist ones, not the other ones. When you begin to realize this, and there's a whole story that goes behind it, well, then those are the people that are actually going out of space. Those are the people that are made in the image of God. Those are the people that have the least amount of negative karma on them. But the people with the most negative karma are the people that have the red dragon, and we're looking at the United States, and the Jews are behind it, and the Christians are behind it, and Islam is doing something else, and it has nothing to do with what is made in the image of God. No, you are not made in the image of God. On top of that, when I hear things like, oh, well, this is where we worship the beast. Well, we did studies, and rams, 10% of the ram population in a flock of sheep will be homosexual. Can rams produce a symphony? Can rams masturbate? There's all kinds of things rams can't do. If you want to continue to use the arguments, oh, a lion does this, a lion is dead within 4 years of being in charge of his pride. Somebody else has taken over and may have killed the new babies coming by, and there's all kinds of things going on there. If you insist about worshiping the beast, whether it's your masculine body like Rome and everybody else, if you mention she, the goddess, they all go, she, we have to worship the male. We can't say she. If you try to do that, they just fall apart. And no, we're not just the Shekinah. And no, it's not the Virgin Mary. No, the Virgin Mary is not good enough. And by the way, John never mentions the Virgin Mary by name. It's Mother Ahuzamababi shows up someplace, and she only shows up twice. And it's a completely Thracian event. But all right, I digress. Getting back. The Kinsey Report should not have been taken as anything other than an incidence of behavior, not, as I said, not the causalities and not the consequences. The moment you start recognizing that you have out-of-wed mothers, women committing suicide, men killing women because of it, men abandoning families that are too large. You have incidences of things like syphilis that doesn't, like it's almost impossible, or certain forms of venereal disease. When you got things like AIDS, female genital mutilation should have shut right down, because they are more likely to engage in anal sex because of, one, the pain, the sheer pain of having sex. Some of those forms of female genital mutilation. And secondly, because it's very hard to get in. So they are at risk all kinds of ways. That should have been shut down. The whole Abrahamic thing of women in their bodies and owning our bodies, all of these things should have been shut down as soon as you got AIDS. But the LGBT, gay men, transgender, clergy, and all these other people needed to keep their options open in terms of sexuality. So women took the hit left and right. It's like when they say, oh, women are not nice and they've driven men away. Men have driven women away. Foreign brides, pornography. Oh my goodness, I've gone out on dates when men grope me and lap at me like they're having, one was, I went to church with him, like he was interested in lesbian sex. I guess that's what they watch. It's incredible. Your brains are not working anymore. And so you drove between your pornography, your foreign brides, now you have sex dolls, you have all these kinds of things going on, and you're complaining, oh, and you started that before the women said, we need basic rights. And that's too much for you. The best yet is how bad communism and socialism is. Without communism and socialism, women wouldn't have the right to vote. It wasn't about wars. Women have been engaged in wars all along, as victims and as people that helped to support their side. No, it was after World War I, when the Bolsheviks gave women the right to vote. Now, that was a problem, and everybody changed left and right, just like with the Great Depression, you began to get more things coming in terms of social services because, you know, they were afraid that you would go by way of the communists. So there are certain good things that happen. But when we talk about the the whole thing, transgenderism is Abrahamic religion right down the line. And the problem is the clergy, the priests, the powers of be, that scribes. It's not the women. And that Kinsey Report is a bunch of crap. That's all it is. As soon as AIDS hit, somebody should have said, well, wait a minute, I think God is saying something to us. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this. When you got herpes, that didn't go away. Instead, no. You refuse to learn right from wrong. Oh, that's a 4-letter word, and it's not the love one for the Abrahamic religions. God forbid if women knew right from wrong. God forbid if God said we're not supposed to do that. Having sex like that, we can't do it. No, because it's all a commodity and it's all something that the Abrahamic men are allowed to do. Yeah, it is. So I'm going to come out of me for a moment, just show you a lovely picture coming in here, because then I'm going to say bye for now. And let's see if I can find it. Maybe not. Oh, I guess I have to come out of me first. There we go. I'd like to show you something, because I did put up a deal. I think I have to put this, here we go. For Australia to come here, we can't keep the Five Eyes up. It's a disaster. For Australia to come into North America, give the land to China, all right? Let Africa be for Africa. There are certain things that can happen with South America and North America. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I just like you to look at, oh, and also that the people that were actually slaves in the Americas would get the British and the other cultures' lands in Africa, would get their lands in businesses. And then if we need to move over minority people that shouldn't be there anymore, we'll take them over here. But African Americans, that exchange would happen, but the African Americans, the slaves, the people who had actually been slaves here, would be getting so much more. And I put that out there in 2019, 2020. The actual other deal, the land exchange, the greater land exchange, was at the end of 2017. I put it in writing to the Russians in 2018 in the spring. And then, of course, we have the other that I came up with for African Americans. And this is so much more wealth. On top of that, being brokers for any other medical supply, having international backup so that Africa can't reject you. The amount of assets they would be getting is stupendous. Well, when I went through and I took a look to see, all of a sudden I'm seeing online over the last year and a half the thing about the Africa diaspora, Nigeria, Ghana, and I began to do research. In 2013, 2014, there was no such program with them. They didn't even begin studying this program until I came out with my offers in 2018 and 2019. And so they didn't begin to put anything out there, and then it's just business deals. They're not offering the people that were former slaves in these colonies, they're not offering them anything. They're offering second and third generation people from Ghana in the diaspora to come back, work, and to set up programs here. You should see what it is. On top of that, they do want the people that were former African American, who were former slaves, and they are looking to get their retirement and all those other things. The price of their housing is about the cost of what the price of housing would have been in Florida 10 years ago. Why would it cost that much in Ghana? None of this makes any sense. But as you scroll through this, I would like to show you. It looks like it's Ghana. It looks like it's Ghana. It kind of looks like it's Ghana. And then all of a sudden, it's no longer Ghana. Building bridges. Who's actually behind this? Well, we're taking a look at, excuse me, here are the African Americans over here sort of phased out. Here is the Catholic clergy. Who did I tell you that I've been stalked and they refuse to do their job? Right, the Catholic clergy is there, just like the Catholic clergy is there with now England at 10 Downing Street, an outrageous marriage with Pelosi, with, I'm trying to think of Biden. But look at the quote unquote, and I'm going to tell you, it's a drag queen, and you're going to say, "Oh, Miss Schnebley, how do you?" By the way, I've been attacked by some of these people, that physically, just in person. Okay, but let's take a look at these cutouts, because notice how the African people, or could be African people, it says building bridges. Look at that. They're all kind of blurry, but these two people are in focus. Now, look at how the ear is lined up correctly with all these people. Look at how the ear is way down here with that person. This is diabolical. Truly diabolical. And I just need to turn myself off here, because I'm really going after the Kinsey Report and everything that's come out of it. I don't care what kind of sexuality. I'm not talking about being a prude. I'm saying a man will leave his mother and father. It's matrilocal. There is no such thing as patriarchy in this. But I wanted to tell you this. I wanted to, let's see if I can. Let's see, I might have to do this. And the rainbow push. So let's see if I can do this. I found out that those of you that are familiar with the United States, we just got our first openly, as she pronounced, openly lesbian Haitian woman. We still haven't had a real African American vice president on, or who was a slave in this country. And I've covered all of these things. We haven't had any of it, or president. But the Victory Institute, the Biden administration has over 200 openly LGBTQ persons in his administration. Well, how many of these people, oh, let's see if I can get this. Let's see if I can get me. How many of these people are African American, straight African American? And how many of all these lesbian and transgender women? Because they're not telling you who all the lesbians and transgender women are. Because I've seen other transgender that they're not owning up. Okay? There we go. So the whole Black Lives Matter, which was started by lesbians, and as we've seen all these transgenders and all the homosexual, everything's about, and I've seen them, about Black Lives Matter. And when you go in and read the part about the Victory, they give workshops, and since 1993, they've been trying to figure out a way to infiltrate all organizations. So if you're a Nazi, they want to infiltrate that. If you are, conservative, they infiltrate that. If you want to do that, they infiltrate all these things. And they have. And that's why you have conservatives now including gay men, but making fun of women. Okay? They've done exactly what they wanted to do. And it's all a male game. So I will get into other things about what's going to happen when you die and how you review your life. And if you insist upon following the animals, we can make that available to you. You can be an animal when you come back, but you will not have complete forgetfulness anymore. So this is a different issue that we're going into, but I just wanted to begin to share this with you, as well as Rainbow Push. Okay? It was never about actual African American people. I don't know. I've done other pieces of research about how the AIDS young at the Yale University that specializes in AIDS research, how that is connected to the Young Zion of CNN, who did the initial COVID investigations, and how it has aspects of the AIDS virus in it. I mean, you people, you men have been using women left and right. And yeah. What is going to happen to you when you review your life? Everyone is going to heaven, and everyone is reviewing their life. That's it. We're done. So, goodbye for now. I hope I got some of this right. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, is it still on? Oh, maybe I